I think we are all searching the answer. Maybe in 6 days till 16th, maybe later, maybe in 88th birthday, when we are in real meeting, if possible, then we can try to understand. But now in this pandemic, we are very happy with us, director of Meta Theater Germany, Munich, Axel. So Axel, and from Namaste from India, Pranam, and with us, our two very good collaborator friend, Marco Di Palma and Julia De Feliz. So I request Julia to start the second day festival with some introductions, and then Axel will share his view about today's topic. Julia.
Yes, welcome to the second day of our festival. And thanks to these particular times that we are living now everywhere in the world, we have decided to make the festival online. Protesters held up a tree fitness. I don't know what is going on. Right? Please, can you all turn off your microphones so it will be easier to listen to our guest? And the title of our festival is Toward a Better World. And we are questioning ourselves as human beings and as artists, how to create a better world through performing arts, through theater, through voice, through music, through art, through creativity. Yesterday we had the first guest. It was Jarosław, the director of the Grotowski Institute. And today we have another guest from Germany, Mr. Axel. Thank you for being here with us. And we will listen to his speech. So if we are ready, we can all start. Thank you.
Thank you, Supriyo, for inviting me. I will try not to talk for 1 hour. I try to make it more short because I would like to come into discussion with you. But I give you some introduction to Meta Theater because Grotowski Center is known, but Meta Theater, probably you never heard of it. First time. Meta Theater was founded in 1980 by me as a young architect and city planner. I received essential impulse for the conception and aesthetic orientation during my years of active participation in great theater avant-garde, Ellen Stewart La Mama Theater in New York, and Jerzy Grotowski and his theater laboratory in Wrocław. Another model was the Bauhaus, the German Bauhaus, with its specific form of amalgamation of architecture, handicraft, and all artistic genres. You know Bauhaus, which was in the 1910 to 20, it was very avant-garde. The theater building, Meta Theater is, you see in the background, this is Meta Theater. The building was created by me, also contains many conceptual and aesthetic reference to Bauhaus. As a result, Meta Theater sees itself as an experimental cross-border theater laboratory for exploring and expanding methodically, dramaturgically, and aesthetically new forms of contemporary theater. For 40 years, Meta Theater has received a great response and recognition in special circles with its high visual theater projects characterized by language, music, and movement in Germany and many other countries in Europe. International guest performances have taken Meta Theater to Canada, the US, 3 times to India, China, and Japan. As one of the few venues in Europe, Meta Theater has explicitly cultivated the encounter with non-European artists and theater traditions with a focus on cultural and intercultural exchange and theater anthropology. Early examples are Amos Hetz, to be mentioned, from Jerusalem, Israel, and Bogart, 92, from New York, Yoshi Ueda from Peter Brook Company, and several others. In 1982, Meta Theater has organized a Grotowski conference in Munich, Vigil, with lectures, films, workshops, and outdoor encounters in the woods around Meta Theater. In 2018, Meta Theater invited IPA, European Association of Independent Performing Arts, an umbrella organization of 14 national organizations. And in the same year, Meta Theater has organized an IETM network meeting with 600 theater makers from Europe, Canada, Australia, and Asia in Munich. In 2019, last year, we published a book in the publishing house Theater der Zeit, Res Publica, Networking the Performing Arts in a Future Europe. So the main emphasis is in networking. The appreciation of Meta Theater work is reflected in numerous publications and press releases, but also in awards that honor achievements. The beginnings, how do we begin towards a physical theater? One must look back to the 70s to find the origins of Meta Theater. Me, as a young architect who had enriched his studies with practical theater training, together with numerous other collaborators, embarked on a search for a theater of change. The conditions for those arose from a dynamic which aimed at exploring new physical means of expression. A variety of different flowers bloomed then around the theater studies department at the University in Munich, as well as in individual lofts and basements and industrial housings. Two guiding forces had a strong influence on our ongoing work. It was Ellen Stewart and her La Mama Theater when she came in 1970, first time to Munich. And of course, Jerzy Grotowski from the Theater Laboratory in Wrocław. Some words on Ellen Stewart. La Mama is a living legend. With justification, one may call her the mother of American experimental theater. Very early in 1963, she founded La Mama Experimental Theater Club downtown in New York's East Village, in spite of much opposition and the constant struggle against financial difficulties. Very early, she had discovered Jerzy Grotowski and enabled an English publication towards a poor theater in 1968. Here she enabled a host of young, groundbreaking authors, directors, and actors to develop their ideas of a new theater. One thinks of people such as Paul Forster, Sam Shepard, André Sherban, for instance. Free of restraints imposed by commercial success, and thanks to the willingness of Ellen to take risk and her instinct of artists who brought about a change in the traditional structure of theater, La Mama achieved international recognition. During the 70s, La Mama workshop centers established themselves worldwide. There was a La Mama Munich in Munich, La Mama Amsterdam, La Mama Tokyo. It was not organized, but it came up. Ellen Stewart dispatched those centers and sent teachers who taught improvisation and movement techniques, which were new at that time. And they were teaching Grotowski experiences very early. These experiments, however incomplete, they might have been nevertheless pointed the way ahead for me, because they harnessed the expressive creativity of body and the body was the center. Because of her mesmerizing personality, her intuitive ability, and her unconventional behavior, Ellen was regarded by many as a magician. I met her often during these years. Indeed, in 1976, she introduced us to Franz Mareinen, who was also a disciple of Grotowski, and his international theater group Camera Obscura in Rotterdam. We consequently worked body-wise on Prometheus project, which enjoyed considerable success in Holland, Belgium, and Italy. The very first production that we made our own was Parzival. The story of Parzival was invited by Ellen Stewart to New York in 1980. This vivid adaptation of Parzival epic from the Middle Age with its starkly articulated rhythms was performed in front of the unpredictable, very receptive and individualistic Lower East Side audience. We emerged strengthened from his baptism of fire. In 1990, 10 years later, we met Ellen Stewart out of the blue in Augsburg, Germany, a town near Munich, where she engaged us to work on the Gilgamesh epic with a group of Assyrians. Yesterday was already mentioned the genocide in Anatolia, and Assyrians underwent the genocide 1915 in Anatolia. And it was the genocide on the Armenians, Ponto, Christ, and the Assyrians. And in Augsburg, there's a community of 3,000 Assyrians living there and working. And they speak Aramaic language, which is the language of Jesus Christ. Can you imagine? And the encounter started by Ellen was a starting point with 3 productions in German Assyrian language. This extraordinary woman, with her constant advice, constructive criticism, and exhortations, shaped our development outside the institutionalized theater, as much as did Jerzy Grotowski. Jerzy Grotowski and the Polish Theater Lab. After Stanislavski and Meyerhold, Jerzy Grotowski is one of the most important people of contemporary theater. In 1959, he founded the Polish Theater Lab, where masterpieces such as Acropolis, The Constant Prince, and Apocalypsis cum Figuris were produced. In his theatrical work, Grotowski redefines the process of acting, the concept of space, and the relationship between the performers and the audience. He focused on the creative act of the performer who renounces spectacle, rejecting tricks and mannerism in order to experience at the most profound level what is to be human, revealing their psychical powers through some renunciation with a total act, all without the distraction of scenery and lightning, only concentrating on this energy. The audience becomes a witness, which we learned already yesterday, to process which is creating anew each time and which requires the performers to go beyond their own limits, time by time and again and again. The performer's rigorous physical training is an indispensable preparation for the performance. Paratheater. When I saw Apocalypsis cum Figuris in Venice, 1975, Grotowski had already stopped making theater pieces and had devoted himself to what he called paratheater. We had the opportunity to take part in special paratheater projects, such as the Mountain Project, the Tree of People, which took place at the Theater Lab of Wrocław, or in Brzezinka, an old farm roughly 50 kilometers from Wrocław. Grotowski turned out to be a precise thinker, a radical challenger of preconceptions, both a pragmatist and a visionary, who with great spiritual energy tested and put into practice his vision of a new theater, a theater that transcended theater as it was known until then. I quote him, "How to become oneself having rejected games and everyday pretense. How to go beyond the routine of professionalism. How is it possible to be spontaneous between the routine of professionalism and the temptation of chaos? What are man's capacity in action when confronted face to face with another man? How is it possible, while respecting difference between people, to achieve a human understanding above all the differences of nationality, race, culture, tradition, upbringing, language? Is it possible to create a form of art other than those hitherto known, outside the division into the one who watches and the one who acts, man and his product, the recipient and the creator? These were the questions of Grotowski. We, the participants in the paratheatrical projects, were challenged within a given amount of time, sometimes 24 hours or 5 days, for instance, to find a point of common ground, a place between active and passive, between movement and rest, between echo and silence, between discipline and spontaneity. Our wordless actions were determined by very simple things, such as action, reaction, impulse, rhythm, and movement. The most important thing was one person relating to another. And another theme that ran through Grotowski's work was untaming. I quote again Grotowski. "Right from the moment of birth, we are tamed in everything, how we see, how we hear, how we are, how we eat, how we drink water, what we are allowed to do and what we are not allowed to do. So one possible cause of action is to open us in the search for our original state of being, to undo the taming, untaming. This is extremely difficult task. Untaming requires a greater effort and discipline than being tamed in the first place." So far his quotation. Between 1975 and 81, we undertook projects with Grotowski's actors such as Richard Cislak, Zbyszek Synkutis, Sigmund Molik, Rena Mirecka, Staszek Sierski. Just as there was no product of performance anymore, there was no teacher-pupil relationship. Instead, there was a situation and creative process within which authentic action became possible. So at one point, I posed the question about repeatability, about whether it was not inevitable part of theater itself, even though it ends up by destroying the very essence of theater. Because in theater, you have to repeat, you learn, you're directing, and then you have to repeat. So I asked Jerzy, and he replied, "Répète jamais. It's no question of reconstructing each step of the plot. You must understand the process of creation as an endless series of events. Ça répète toujours." Theater of sources. Grotowski's last important project in Poland was in 1981, when people from completely different culture backgrounds worked together with their different spiritual character and their differing spiritual makeups. Is it at all possible to come to a mutual understanding? Yes, but only beyond this spiritual structure. One must look for something else, for the underlying sources of culturally determined techniques, sources so simple that they are valid for everyone. One could glimpse during this summer what Grotowski wanted to investigate as he posed radically questions about the cultural meaning of theater and sought new solutions through his work with singers, priests, athletes, dancers, shamans from other cultures. To Brzezinka in Poland, he had invited people from Japan, India, Mexico, and Haiti. Their experience of art was still of non-secularized form, where artists' creation, ritual, and everyday life blend seamlessly together. In small groups, those of us from the West were able to share with them songs, processions, ritual movements, and walking, running, dancing, observing, and silence. We were able to rediscover an ancient form of art, art as the path of knowledge. Theater of sources enabled us to disconcern this. It would be fair to say that Grotowski opened our eyes to what made this form of theater so beautiful and unique within the context of our mechanized modern world, namely action liberated from external effects, functioning as a living and one-off event to be shared with one another. Thank you very much. So far, it's my way looking on Grotowski from my practical point as a theater maker, architect, and creator. I think, and I'm referring to Bauhaus because in Bauhaus was in the 20s a movement where they didn't ask if you have studied or if you worked as a craftsman. So we were all on the same level and all worked together from architecture, from composition, from music, from the visual arts. So what was called later Gesamtkunstwerk, to create, to be creative. And I think it's the same source which Grotowski tried to follow. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Axel, for this very precise and wonderful your speech. So I think it's a very, because yesterday you saw that if there are some questions,
yes, please.
So yeah, so please write in the chat box, or you can ask directly to Axel. So whatever is you can ask anything related to this subject.
I would prefer that you open your microphone and ask me directly, or you join with your reflections from your personal points, if it's in your.
No, I have just a consideration that came out in my mind when you were speaking and you were describing the situation you live in Brzezinka.
Yeah.
Because I was also there, and I am another generation, and the perception you receive is still the same. So the perception of encounter people, meet people from all around the world, sharing, and different nationalities, and it's so magic that the power of Grotowski is still so big that continues during the generations. So this was only a consideration. Thank you for your description.
But I think in honor of Grotowski, I mean, he was a great theater philosopher, as we say in Germany. But I think he at the same time was very open what was before him and what he learned in other cultures, what he learned in India. So he was a searcher, and I think this is a great value to be a wanderer, a searcher in this world, to be open to other cultures and to see where we can communicate, where we can connect each other.
Yes.
Anyone, please?
So, I mean, this conference shows us that we can connect with Italy and Kolkata and South America. So,
Yeah.
So, I just, it's not a question because,
Hello,
yes, please.
Supriyo. Good evening, sir. I'm Sholil Sarkar from Kolkata,
yeah.
one theatre practitioner, research worker.
Mm-hmm.
My one humble question, not question, just ask on for the curiosity. When Grotowski came here in India and in Bengal, in Kolkata, at that time we are doing theatre in Bengal as a revolutionary theatre, maybe poster drama, proscenium theatre, like others. That time he was with us, with some persons, our friend and others. But if I think Grotowski is still with us,
Yeah.
as a living theatre person, in this situation, what will be his reaction in world crisis, theatre crisis, cultural crisis?
I think he would be the same. To be, he was a creative man and a creative spirit. So, as he admired very much Krishnamurti, as far as I remember, and I think he left traces in India, especially in Bengali. And I toured twice India, and it was organized by the Raj Kapoor family, our tours. And at that time, Peter Brook did Mahabharata.
Yeah.
And I was very astonished because in Mahabharata in Europe was very highly acclaimed production. In India, they were very critically, and they didn't know if they should like it or hate it. So, and I think in contrast to it, Grotowski was really in touch with the Indian culture, with the Bengali culture. So he was a spiritual searcher. And what was criticized that Peter Brook just took effects of another culture to put together a great show, beautiful, colorful show with some famous Indian actress. So I learned very much at that time what it means to work interculturally, which means on eye level to respect each other, not to pick out the best of the other culture and to sell it in Europe as a great event. And I think, so it's nice that you mention what he would do, what he would think today. And I think still that you asked this question shows me that his memory is alive. So thank you very much.
I think, sir, I say many times to our student and other colleagues that Grotowski is prophet of theatre. It's my opinion.
Yeah.
And so if he is still with us in that pandemic situation, globally, aesthetically, not in the some physical, realistic crisis, aesthetical and cerebral crisis, how we can overcome this thing in this time?
I think
as per your opinion,
my personal opinion is to stay to your inner center,
Yeah.
and not to get confused by negative movements, by turmoil or whatever. Just to find, I think it's a time to reflect what is absolute necessary. The same question Grotowski posed. What you can take away from theater and you still call it theater. And so what you can take away from our culture and you still say it's our culture. And I mean, I got to know Sanjukta Panigrahi, maybe you know, Pratima Bedi, so they are great personalities. And they are also in my mind. And I think they were also in search of the truth. So, and I think today we should follow the path of the truth.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Maybe it's not satisfying, but it's my personal
No. It is a long journey, and
it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah, and time is endless.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Again.
I have a question, Axel, for you. If you find in this time that our routine of craft was changed for the time, if you find a new motivation in your creativity, where to go with the theater, with the relationship with the space, the partner or other, if you find in this time new kind of direction of your research, of your journey?
Well, very practically, I mean, the last 4 months were quite a disaster for the company and the group because we were not allowed to meet. We were not allowed to rehearse, not training. So we tried by Skype, by Zoom, by whatever. And it was very annoying and time consuming and energy eating. So you don't get back anything. But now we started again to reopen with 26 seats in the theater, which is better than nothing. But to go forward to a positive vision or the next steps, we think to make an investigation on hybrid theater forms, which means as we are only allowed to a limited number of audience, so we will at the same time to have online participation and the 26 people physically present. So the question is what we want to research, how to connect people who are participating digital with the people who are physically in the space. So I don't know what will be the outcome. So we start now late September, October. We have now to find the technical requirements we need. So it's a question also how to of cultural exchange to make the digital persons present in the space. So the opportunity would be that you from Kolkata could look a show. Normally we have only audience around Munich, and suddenly we have an audience much wider. But I think the medium theater needs the physicality, as the theater, as Grotowski mentioned, the body as the center of expression. So we want to put the body in the center of this request and try to share with the digital ones, a hybrid form. I can tell you more maybe in the end of the year, we can talk if we failed or found how to manipulate or how to handle or what was a good practice.
and the motivation is to have more connection with the culture.
Well, the motivation is to get people out of the isolation, because I feel now in Germany, people are very afraid. They don't dare to go to museum. They don't dare to go to, even the museums are open. So it's a very strange feeling in the city. So it's not normal, and it's not good for culture. Culture needs the mixing, the blend, the physicality, and now physicality is cut off. So we have to reflect what means cut off physicality to physical theater. So it's a contradiction, and so it would be. So if you have examples in the next months, I would be interested, because I guess you are all involved with physical theater, how you deal with this contradiction.
For me is important now, for instance, the meeting, to try to meet when is possible, or in and with the nature. If we have no partner, we can go to the nature and to talk and to dance, to sing for the tree, for the sea, for the mountain. This is my research now. But thank you so much, because I feel so deep this to take out people from isolation,
yeah,
with the ache of the body and the heart of the actor and the group. This is beautiful.
But the heart of theater, I mean, Eugenio Barber said something for something, to share, the barter. So it needs, yeah, like in the church, in the Christian church, you have the communication, the community. So community doesn't mean to be alone. So at least it means 3, not 2.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So the minimum would be 3. So in my point of view.
Yes, thank you.
But if you have some practice already in this strange times, how to overcome this isolation, please tell me. Let's share.
Axel, there is a question by Kirtana. Kirtana is here.
Hi, Kirtana.
Kirtana, you can ask. No problem. Yeah, you can ask. That's it.
Hello, Supriyo. Hello, Axel. Lovely to see all of you. I have a question that comes from my young students, actually, who say for them, community has anyway been virtual. It's anyway been online for some time now. And when we talk to them about community, they say that our community is online. So what do you mean by this physical community? Do you think that the absence of physicality can act? Is there something positive in it? Is there something where we can translate this, what Grotowski talked about, the physical, can we translate that into a new politic and a new relationship with virtuality?
Well, it sounds to me like the ascetic way. I think it's, I mean, we are on the first steps. I think this coronavirus will follow for at least 1 year. So we won't overcome very quickly. In Germany, we think the whole next year will be our problem. In the moment, I can't see any positive development in this separation. Because, I mean, Katana, you have kids, I have grandchildren. So like animals, they want to have skin contact. They need a mother-child relation without physical contact. It's impossible. I mean, then you have to ask, what is human being? What's your birth? Your birth without physical contact? Is it being in the laboratory with the reagents? So then you have to think consequently further.
Yeah.
But I think also when I discussing with sociologists, especially from France, they have already before Corona discussing about neighborhood. What is neighborhood today? So in the old times, of course, it was next house. This was your neighbor. But today, neighborhood is in the internet, as you say.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube. It's maybe for the Gastwerker. It's Morocco, the neighborhood on the weekend, because he is at home from Monday to Friday. It's Paris. So what's neighborhood? So now we have many neighborhoods, a variety of neighborhoods simultaneously. And I think it's the same. We have to learn about being connected physically, but also in distance. Disconnected, I would appreciate not to use too much. Even we are now forced by law to be disconnected, but rather to be connected, even we are not allowed to touch each other. So how we can touch each other or be near in spite of all the restrictions.
Thank you, Axel.
Katana is coming to Munich soon.
Yes.
So
If
everything
is okay, yeah.
Question mark.
Question mark.
Yeah.
No, but I'll be there. In February, I'm there.
Yeah. And we will see what you can do. I mean, the same question will arise when you arrive in Munich.
Yeah.
So you have a plan, and then you have to adapt what is possible and not. And you are especially in contact with the theater for young people. So I'm curious what's their reaction.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Axel.
Axel, just to, because the topic is Jerzy Grotowski's Theatre of Production, to art as a vehicle, a journey of an activist.
Yeah.
So, as we know, in early life, Grotowski, in college life, he was very much involved in Communist Party, as we read article in it. And then later he go and studied directing, and then with Meyerhold, and then come back and take these things and start the journey what you share now. And the important things what for me, because the whole journey, it's not only like production, para-theater, theater of sources, art as a vehicle, or objective drama, but the inside this man, this is only the name, but inside there is a journey. And that journey from theater of production to now, the recent work which Mario and Thomas are following, the structure, for me is very important, that the theater of production and then para-theater, where the structure is not so defined. And at the end, for last few years of his life, when he is working with Mario and Thomas, then he come to the structure. I understand the performance structure. So how you see this construction in the life of Grotowski?
With the Communist Party? Well, I mean, as Grotowski was also living in my house, so we had I had a possibility of personal encounter with him, and I think there was something inside himself, which is his secret. What was his impulse, which made him to go on this path, on this search. I mean, other people don't have the need to search. They are content with the work and eat, work, sleep, having some culture, entertainment on the weekend. But he never was content with this outside satisfaction. So he was always pointing the finger into new questions. So I think his best quality was questioning. What we can learn from him to start questioning even things we don't dare to question. So, and to encourage all the young people not to take everything as granted. Also political institutions questioning, why is it like that? So if you think of the title Towards a Better World, so we have to question what is the world today, and then only if we question we can find a way towards a better world. So the first step is really questioning.
And how we see a human being. This is this is a very important question.
Well, I think everyone is responsible for his own life. So we don't, I mean, of course you have the tradition of gurus in India, but we had the period of enlightenment in Europe. So we, from our European point of view, every human being is responsible for his own life, and in the end also for his own way to go through the life. So no one can help you. I mean, even a teacher is only an assistant for you for a certain period, and the best teacher is if he is abandoned and if you go your own way. The best teacher in yourself is questioning. I mean, that's how you learn from early childhood. When you put your finger on the stove and burn it and question why is this plate hot, and then you do it only once or twice and then you learn. Or is it different in India from your cultural background? Is it very European point of what I'm telling? Ketana, you can use the microphone.
Yes, yes, Ketana, please, unmute. Yeah.
Yes, it's a complex proposition, Axel, because in India, as much as individualism is really connected with modernity,
Yes,
individualism with modernity, but also we're very, very embedded in social structures and family structures, ritualistic structures, traditional structures. So it's not easy, as much as the heart or the mind may be attracted by the kind of individualism you speak of. It is, I know it's not a reality for us. It's not a social reality. And especially now, like during coronavirus, we see it even more, that the thing we long for more than anything is our loved ones. We don't care to be individuals at this time. I feel it very personally, that I cared. I want to be with my parents, or with my, I want to be with them. So at this point, I really don't care so much about my own individual pursuit. Somehow, other people can add. I would love to hear from the young people what they feel.
Yeah. No, that's why I'm questioning. I mean, we have different cultural background. Would be also interesting to have someone from Asia, how he would think about it.
I have a question from your question. Why? Grotowski wrote an article, you are the son and the daughter of somebody. In French was "Tu es le fille de quelqu'un."
Yeah.
Why in Europe do we feel abandoned from the politics, from something? Why do you feel? Why we feel this abandon? What we are missing in our Europe society? Because I have this feeling.
It's an interesting question. I mean, it's also interesting that we point out now the difference between the Eurocentric point of view and the Asian point outside Europe. It's different possibilities to look at it. I think it has to do with the period of enlightenment when we discovered in Europe the progress. So the new, and with the new, we cut off the tradition. So we stopped practicing tradition. So in Europe, we don't know even the practice of Shakespeare tradition. We can now search in the archives and the libraries. It's all documented, but we don't have no living tradition of Shakespeare theater, which is 250 years back. And in Asia, you can have practice of no theater, which is 600 years old or 800 years, and practice without no interruption. So in Europe, we are missing the link to our own tradition. Intellectually, we are linked, but physically, we are disconnected. Everything is in the archive. So we can read and learn or relearn what we have already learned, but we don't have a living traditional practice. So I think this is the main difference, and that's why someone like Grotowski went to the East, as Bertolt Brecht went 1935 to Moscow, where there was the famous meeting with the first Chinese opera dancer, and they learned from the East this unbroken practice tradition. Of course, there was a lot of misunderstanding. Bertolt Brecht misunderstood, but at least it was this attraction. What he called the Verfremdungseffekt was misunderstanding the Asian approach.
So maybe the new direction of the theater is to rediscover this body tradition, this tradition that you are speaking now. Maybe is this one of the direction from maybe from the Greek tragedy, because our Europe in politics way is the ethics of the Greek, our place.
Yeah.
This is.
Well, I call it theater anthropology, like Eugenio Barber. So, and I'm since 40 years very much concerned about non-European exchange with non-European artists and European. So I have a lot of artists from India, from Bolivia, from everywhere, from Mongolia, and not as an exotic exchange, but to learn how their way, unbroken way, is kept up. What makes them to continue this different approach. So in a certain period in Meta Theater, I had a series of shamanic encounters with shamans from Nepal, from Haiti, from Bolivia. And so we were interested, what is the source of theater? So, is it still possible to reinvent something similar like in the non-European traditions? This was our question.
And now I will have another question, but I don't want to take so much space.
Yeah.
Maybe that what is the source of the meeting? What can be the source of the meeting? Because the theater is a meeting. What can be the source of this meeting?
What I learned from early Grotowski encounters between 75 and 81, I was every year in Poland. I think it's the magic of energy. What we can learn because we have this mechanistic view of energy, like fill in the gasoline to the car, the energy, and when the tank is full or empty, the energy is run out. But human being works differently. I mean, what I learned very early in this 24-hour encounters or 5 days encounters, when you come to this tiredness, Grotowski called this working with fatigueness. Ne? So you come to a point where you think you cannot go on, and suddenly new energy comes and you don't know where it comes from. So you didn't eat, you didn't fill up your tank, but it's magic, but also at the same time a physical process. An encounter with other people doing small actions, and suddenly you feel re-energized, and even you are totally tired after 24 hours, you feel fresh as a young baby.
Yes, Rena told me about this.
Yeah.
To come when the mind.
Yes, so it's really like really like magic. But I think on this point we can, I think it's similar, the understanding in Indian culture and European culture, this magic energy. Yeah.
So, Axel, there is one, not question, but he wants to know in general that if you suggest what do you think about a new person when he wants to join in theater?
Pardon? A new?
He wants to join in theater art.
Yeah.
What is the things you suggest for him that, okay, this is the basic you have to
what is the best advice?
Yes, he asked that. Okay,
better not to join theater. No, I think he has to find himself. I cannot answer. I would advise him to look for another profession. If he doesn't know, then better look for another profession. Is it satisfying?
Sad but true.
Yeah.
But the spirit of Grotowski says that you have to try.
I mean, Grotowski never persuaded anybody to follow his way. So he never...
No, he never says that follow me.
No.
He says that take the inspiration and you do your own work.
I think in contrary, he was very careful choosing people to participate in the encounters. So he was very anxious of this bipolar people or psychotic. So he was very carefully selecting people, and he never advertised. So it was not proposed in the newspaper, come to this workshop. So it was only people who really wanted to come. So it was even at that time difficult to join his activities. And I think it was purpose that it was difficult to approach to him. As it should be for anyone being on the path of searching something. You have to overcome difficulties, and then you can enjoy. If you have reached the first level, then you see, oh, there's a second level. But this is your personal journey you have to follow. And if this young man is questioning what he should choose, then better choose another profession. To be carpenter or something like that.
Theater cannot be a profession.
No.
Okay. With this note, thank you, Axel. It's a personal journey, and I think that here is Chandra Dasan from Kerala, Kochi, also Kirtana, and they are all for 14. They are speaker. So Chandra, are you here? I think
yeah, I'm here. I'm listening to all of you.
So please, if anything you can share, or it is good.
No,
okay.
It's a difference of perspectives, you know. For example, when he says, Axel says, the unbroken traditions in India or the Eastern countries, I have a slight problem there. It's unbroken, it's continuous, it's moving on, but it's renewing itself, it's renovating, it changes on gradually and smoothly. The thing is that now, look into any practice or form like Kudiyatam. It was there 1,000 years before, but the present day Kudiyatam is not that Kudiyatam. It's always changing slowly, softly, without evidently making it clear that's changing. Maybe inside, something will be remaining which connects in the thread. It's freely flowing and developing. I think the social structure is also doing that. Things are getting changed slowly, softly, but continuously going in the same name. So it's not broken, but continuous and smoothly progressing or forwarding. I cannot say it's a progressive movement or a repressive movement, but it's always changing. And it changes with time, it adjusts with time, it negotiates with time and the social structure and the political atmosphere, whatever is happening around. So I think that no, there's a little mystifying that no, this is forever here. It's not like that.
Okay, thank you, Chandra, for clarifying. But still, you have the practice. Even the practice is changing, but you still continue practicing. And we stopped practicing, for example, the Shakespeare tradition. So we stopped doing the practice. So this is maybe the difference I wanted to point out.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to follow the next sessions and all the festival Supriyo put on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Axel. It's very lovely to listen your, I say, view about life and theater and your relation with Grotowski and the journey. I think today is 87th. We are looking for 88. So hope for the best. This pandemic will be over. And yesterday, as Julia says, that we meet together, saying whatever we don't know, maybe in the part of this world. So maybe you can join with us in real, not in Zoom. So Julia, please end. I think tomorrow's program, Julia will announce, and greetings from us for me, Marco, and all the here. And thank you everyone who are here. So.
Thank you, Mr. Axel, for being with us and for your speech. It was very touching for me. Tomorrow, we will meet at 5 p.m. European Central Time, and we will have a special guest, Mr. Jorge Parente, that today was online with us. And I thank you also, Mr. Pedro Mendes, that was online. So I see how people are following us. This is a very special gift. And also our Facebook page reached 400 likes. So it's powerful that we are connecting people from all around the world anyway, beside all the limitations and all the very difficult times that we are living. So see you tomorrow. and thanks again for sharing your experience. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye. Thank you, Axel.
Ciao, ciao. And
Bye.
happy birthday, Grotowski.
Happy birthday.
Yes, yes.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
thank
See
you very
you all
much.
tomorrow. Yes.
Yes,
See you
a
all
glass
tomorrow.
of Shukrovka.
Da, wódka.
Na zdrowie.
Na
Na
zdrowie.
zdrowie.
100 lat.
Na zdrowie. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.